Hello everyone, and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. When you're trying to take down your enemy, one of the most effective strategies is to weaken him so much, little by little, that when the full frontal assault begins, he has no real resources to draw on because you've been slowly draining them, little by little. Let's survey the spiritual battlefield for a moment here and zero in on the skirmish going on over there with regard to homosexuality. Having put up essentially no resistance to the Catholic in name only New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, the church in New York now sees the next brick being taken out of the wall. Fresh from his victory lap, where he outmaneuvered the snoozing New York bishops in getting so-called gay marriage made into law, he is now continuing to advance his agenda. Last week, as news broke in the Empire State that a town clerk who signs marriage licenses was resigning because her religious convictions would not allow her to stay in her job, the governor, full of all his social justice compassion that he's learned in the church these past 40 years, said, "Good, let her quit." But when he went a step further than that, a step that the discerning ear should be very concerned over. Here are his exact words, quote, "When you enforce the laws of the state, you don't get to pick and choose the laws. You don't get to say, I like this law and I'll enforce this law, or I don't like this law and I won't enforce this law. You can't do that." And here's the humdinger conclusion, quote, "So if you can't enforce the law, then you shouldn't be in that position," end quote. Cuomo made his comments to the New York Daily News. So I see how this goes now. Modernist Catholics, beholding to the state and morally bankrupt culture, kick and scream and cry and bully and threaten long enough and loud enough until they get another immorality sanctioned by law. Then, with the power of the state and the force of unjust and immoral laws behind them, they begin to marginalize and ghettoize their opposition. In fact, they begin to purge them from positions of authority. It's particularly noteworthy that Cuomo said when you're enforcing the laws, you don't get to pick and choose which laws you enforce. But that is exactly what Obama is doing with the Defense of Marriage Act, also known as DOMA. His Justice Department has chosen to not defend that law because of him being beholden to the radical homosexualist movement. The Obama White House and its homosexual allies want that law trashed, just like they did with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell military policy, because it is currently a roadblock to their agenda of federally protected homosexual marriage. So Obama gets to ignore laws based on his personal preference, but a small-town city clerk in New York who correctly determines that she cannot support perversity and immorality as part of her duties should step aside, according to her governor, take her firmly religious-held beliefs, and hit the road. So Cuomo has now put people, Catholics chief among them, on notice that as long as he is king, if you can't go along with him and his party's support of immorality, then you cannot work for the state. Now the question, an internal one, why is this man not excommunicated and it publicly announced by the church? He pushed for this law. As a matter of fact, he strong-armed for it and is now advancing the cause even further, forcing good, honest civil servants to choose between Caesar and Christ when it comes to providing for their families. And here's another one for that whole false social justice crowd out there, since all they do is crow about sinful structures and all of that. What about the injustice done to Laura Fatuski, the 56-year-old town clerk from Barker, New York, whose conscience will force her out of her job later this week? Evil never rests. It is never satisfied. It never has enough until it has everything. Brick by brick, little by little, step by step, it keeps pushing its agenda, and as long as it takes this incremental approach, too many in the church just keep rolling over, apparently waiting for the big one, the battle where they will finally draw the line. First of all, as long as these incremental battles are being won, why should evil ever bother to launch an all-out attack? That noise and commotion might wake some people up. Evil's agenda is moving along quite nicely, thank you very much. Secondly, with such a historic string of defeats and all the fallout and consequences from them, you also have to ask yourself, Do any church leaders in the U.S. actually have the stomach to launch their own all-out counteroffensive? God love you. I'm Michael Voris.
Please help us keep delivering these kinds of messages that so desperately need to be heard and acted on. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber. Become immersed in the faith established by Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church is the only hope against evil because that is its God-given mission. As our Lord said, apart from me, you can do nothing. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber and come to learn and love Christ more deeply.